Austin Davis has spent his career leading in environments where security, public trust, and mission execution converge. With a background spanning military service, law enforcement, and public sector cybersecurity leadership, he brings a unique perspective on managing risk in an increasingly complex world. In this conversation, we explore the cybersecurity workforce challenge, leadership development, the realities of securing public institutions, and how organizations can responsibly navigate the rapid rise of AI. This is the Risk Apogee. Let's get after it.
Welcome to the Risk Apogee, where we cut through the noise to get to the truth about risk. Cyber, physical, human. Every organization faces threats. What separates the ones that survive from the ones that don't is the decisions their leaders make under pressure. Each episode, we go inside the arena with the operators and strategists, shaping how organizations defend, adapt, and lead. This is the Risk Apogee.
Austin Davis, welcome to the Risk Apogee.
Thank you for having me.
I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise.
We've been acquaintances and colleagues for quite some time now, and I was very interested in getting you into the studio because I think that the perspective of folks like yourself who've done both public service and stints in enterprise and commercial, I think carry very unique perspectives on the risk landscape, how you tackle challenges within the risk landscape. And so your current role as the CISO for the city of San Jose,
Yes.
12th largest city in the United States.
Yeah. Austin cheats, but yeah, we're still 12th.
It's a big proposition, right?
Yeah.
And you are in, I think, a relatively unique place in terms of the backdrop that, from which you have to operate from a risk perspective. Mm-hmm. So talk to us a little bit about the challenges from your perspective. Again, having spent time in enterprise, now back to public service for you at this stage, leading at a very senior level, but there got to be some constraints and things that make the job challenging.
Sure. I mean, there's no CISO that's going to sit here in front of you and say they've got too much money and they've got too large of a team, right?
Right.
I think what the difference is when you're with a private company, is this cybersecurity need greater than the need for product development? Or in the healthcare space, is this cybersecurity need greater than the need for more physicians? Or is it greater than the need for the hospital procuring this medical device that will save 10,000 lives? Is it more important than that? When you're with a city, you're directly competing with public safety. You're directly competing with transportation organizations like the airport. And so the problem gets even more complex when you're talking about allocation of funds, allocation of resources, right? It's not so simple. And then you have the city initiatives, like right now with the city of San Jose, homelessness is a very big issue.
Right.
So if I invest $500,000 in cybersecurity, what impact is that having on the city's major initiatives like homelessness?
What's it taken away from? No.
Yeah, exactly.
So what you just described is what I might consider to be a risk methodology or framework, right? It is the analysis of the various risks. Most folks use a register of some kind where you stack rank them, and you begin to have those conversations around what can we afford to do and what can we afford not to do.
Right.
Is that any different from the commercial or enterprise side of the house to the public sector, or do you take a very similar approach in terms of the potential outcomes or potential impact?
Sure. Slightly different. I mean, it's similar in ways, but slightly different for the city because now you're talking about public safety, and public safety is paramount.
So does the public safety aspect, is that sort of the top tier rule everything?
Okay. Absolutely. When you're talking about the private sector, again, depending on the industry that you're in, some things are, let's face it, to make things a little bit easier and more efficient for either the user community or the cybersecurity organization, right? Whether it's to comply with a regulatory requirement, whether it's to increase security without adversely impacting the organization's ability to conduct operations. But when you're talking about a city, a lot of the decisions that are made are going to directly impact public safety.
Right.
And yes, nothing else takes more priority. Innovation, efficiency, no.
Yeah.
It's all public safety.
I'm surprised you didn't use the term revenue when you were thinking about your time in commercial or enterprise space.
I don't think revenue was necessarily a big driver, at least where I was.
Okay.
From a cybersecurity perspective. Now, impact on revenue in terms of potential fines, potential recovery costs, that sort of thing.
Right.
Maybe from that standpoint, but as far as revenue generation, not so much.
So my experience has been, and this will likely resonate with you, is that explaining the potential risk to the enterprise, regardless of where you are, can be a challenging position to be in.
Sure.
How do you convey to other stakeholders the importance of what it is that you're doing day to day, but still maintaining that balance and understanding they have an agenda as well from their vantage point?
You have to meet people where they are. And I think this is where my military experience helped me. If I'm trying to talk to somebody in the maintenance shop about an aircraft issue, and they don't really, they don't fly on the aircraft, they don't understand how the aircraft works, they just know how to kind of fix it.
Yeah.
If I talk to them using a bunch of aviation terms, I'm going to lose them, right? They're going to want to try to understand, they're going to want to help, but I'm speaking a language that they don't understand. So when I'm talking, it doesn't matter who it is in the city, actually. When I'm talking about cybersecurity issues, I try to break them down in terms that are going to resonate with whoever I'm speaking to. If I'm talking to somebody in finance, not only am I going to use layman terms, but I'm also going to talk for that particular audience about the financial impact of what we're doing, whether it's going to reduce cost or if we don't do something, it's going to increase cost. If I'm speaking to somebody, I just had a conversation the other day with somebody with the San Jose Police Department and talked about, in that particular conversation, impact on their ability to operate, right? Those sorts of things are going to resonate more than, hey, Russia has this range of IP addresses that they're attacking the city with, and we need you to do X, Y, and Z. They're going to look at me kind of like, and that means what to me, right?
Right.
But if I can translate it into, you are not going to have 20 vehicles ready to go that day because they're going to be down because of this particular issue, that resonates with them. And then the conversation shifts to, how do I help? How do I help get this done, right? When I'm dealing with certain departments as Austin, I want to do the right thing. But where do I have the resources to do what you need me to do, right?
Right.
In those particular conversations, you have to come from the standpoint of how I can help you and we can help each other get this thing done. So I think the longer you've been a CISO, I think you kind of learn these things that you can't talk to everybody the same way. But what is common is you have to meet people where they are.
So, first of all, thank you for your service.
Appreciate that.
It's always a pleasure to come across and work with fellow veterans in the cybersecurity space. I've often said I think we bring a unique perspective to the cybersecurity realm and its challenges. What about your career of service do you think helps you navigate both the enterprise space and public sector space?
Sure. Even when you were asking the question, the phrase that kind of resonated in my head that I remember over and over and over again throughout my military career was service before self. So in cybersecurity, everybody's aware. There's times when 6 o'clock at night, I want to go home, but something comes across your radar that says, we need to jump on this now. If I don't, it's going to lead to more work and potentially more devastating consequences just because I was too tired and decided to go home. I think those things are kind of bred into you within the military. What you need as my teammate is more important than what I need as an individual. And I think that absolutely resonates really well, especially in the cybersecurity community, right? It's a lot of long hours. It's a lot of difficult situations. And a lot of times you're giving people news that they would rather not receive, right? And I think the other thing is a really strong work ethic. Now, I've had debates with other veterans about whether that gets formed at home or if that gets formed in the service.
Right.
For me, it happened to be both.
Well, I think that what you're touching on is the idea that if you've had that in your home life and your upbringing, if you go through a period of military service, it basically compounds those ethics into something akin to like your natural character. It basically becomes part of your modus operandi.
100%.
How you operate 100% of the time.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And then I think the other thing, just being able to relate to so many different types, diverse backgrounds, titles of people, origins of people, I think the military really helps in that regard as well, right? Where one day you could be briefing a 4-star general, and the next day you could be, in a room full of newer enlisted members. I'm trying not to be Air Force specific here, but
that's all right.
some of the newer younger
We won't
members,
hold that against you.
some of the newer younger members that I can't communicate with a general the same way I'm communicating with them, because I'm going to lose them. And if I communicate to a general the same way I'm communicating to them, the general is going to go, okay, are you a leader, or are you, what are you wasting time in front of me for, right? And then I think it also helps you just understand and respect other people's backgrounds, right? Because at the end of the day, you all have to work together, and you all have to work together as a cohesive team. And I think that's something else that the military kind of really helped foster in me. And then I would say the last thing is the difference between a leader and a manager. Unfortunately, in my career, I met a lot of managers, and I met some outstanding leaders. But those managers taught me more of what I don't want to be as a leader. And the leaders really help shape what type of leader I want to be. Do I want to be that kind of person that when something goes wrong, people are afraid to talk to? Or do I want to be the person that they know is going to listen, and then we both collectively try to figure out how to work our way through the situation, right? So
I once heard a really exceptional leader say something to the effect of, it's time to worry when people stop coming to you with their problems.
Amen.
Yeah. Because leaders are problem solvers at the end of the day. And if people stop coming to you, that means you're probably doing something wrong.
Yeah, General Colin Powell. Remember, he made a statement like that.
Yeah. Let's double down a little bit on this idea of being a public sector CISO. I think really, really challenging. I applaud you for taking on. It's like taking on a mission. I'm sure that you have lots of conversations with your counterparts across many different cities around the country.
Absolutely.
Thematically, what are some of the top 1 or 2 things that you tend to hear from everyone, all of your counterparts?
Resourcing is always the top number 1 issue.
Is that a financial issue or a people issue?
It's both.
Okay.
So there's a couple of different things when you're talking about a city that don't necessarily apply to the private sector. And I didn't know this until I came to the city of San Jose. When you hire a full-time employee in the private sector, you're paying for salary plus benefits.
Right.
Life is good. That person is there for X amount of time, and when they leave, all obligations are kind of satisfied, right?
That FTE resource opens up, you get to reuse it.
There you go.
Yeah.
With the city, you are not just paying salary plus benefits. You have to account for pension.
Right.
Right. And it's that pension that causes the city to say, we need to take a second look before adding additional headcount, right? Because it has
long-term cost associated with it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So I think a lot of my counterparts struggle with, one, there's never enough money.
Yeah.
But with cities, it seems to be more prevalent, doing more with less. And then from a staffing standpoint, it's because of that whole pension and FTE headcount, it kind of boils down to, well, do I get a contractor to do it? And if I do get a contractor, there's a lot of rules that apply to ensure fairness.
Right.
Right. Well, why did you select MK and not Mary? Right.
Right.
So there's a lot of, can't think of a word better than hoops, because it's important that fairness is practiced.
Yeah.
It adds to the complexity of even being able to bring in a simple resource to get done what the team needs to get done. And then, again, from a financial standpoint, it's doable to get budget. It's doable to procure new solutions. It's just a lot more difficult than it is on the private sector because of all the laws and the rules, which are good, but also what you're kind of competing with for those resources. That seems to be universal throughout the United States, whether it's the city of San Francisco or even I believe she was from the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was the same thing.
Right. Just at a different scale.
Yeah. I was sitting on a panel about a month ago, and this was right before RSA, and it was a public sector cybersecurity forum. And I remember somebody in the audience asked a question to the panel members. And I remember sitting there looking left and right to my other panel members, and it kind of turned into a therapy session, you know? And it was all those common themes.
Yeah.
Getting people, getting solutions, and then also kind of retaining people as well.
What do you think is the nexus of the people challenge? Are there just not enough trained technology professionals on the landscape or entrants into the fields, or is it our selection process and like what we're looking for? I've heard everything, the complaints across the spectrum. We don't advertise correctly for the roles. We don't really know what we're looking for. We're putting folks up against an unmeasurable bar that like they can never exceed.
Yeah.
So there are some arguments that these people are out there. We just can't seem to sift through the noise and get to the real signal on it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is where I get in trouble. So I think it's a couple of things.
Yeah.
One is, and I'm going to go back to the military here for a minute.
Yeah.
When you come into a new job, doesn't matter what branch it is, you come in at a certain skill level, and then somebody lays out, in order to advance to the next skill level, here's the set of criteria you need to meet.
Very, very clear roadmap.
Here's the training, here's what you need to be able to demonstrate, and then we'll move you up to the next skill level, and the next skill level, and the next skill level. That's not done. I don't think that's ever been done for the cybersecurity career field. If you look at...
Hasn't NICE tried to tackle some of that? And there have been some organizations, I think, that have tried to create career pathing around... I want you to go on with your train of thought, but I think adoption is the issue. But go ahead.
Okay, I would agree with that. I also think that, look at some of the other skilled professions out there. Look at being a physician. Look at being an attorney.
Right.
There's certain training everyone is required to go through. It doesn't matter where you live in the country. There are certain things you need to be able to demonstrate as I'm going to step out of my element here, but as a trainee physician.
Yeah. No, but as a qualified practitioner, you have to be able to show you can do these particular set of skills, right?
Exactly. So there's not a doctor shortage. There's not an airline pilot shortage. There's not an attorney shortage, because there are universally adopted career tracks, paths in order to obtain those positions. Cybersecurity, to me, is no different. It is a disciplined, skill laden career field.
Right.
And there should be something universally accepted process that says, hey, if you want to be a cybersecurity practitioner, then you need to meet these requirements. But what do? We say, I think that's the number one question I get. Austin, how do I get into cybersecurity?
Right.
And my answer is always the same. From a practitioner standpoint, you need to understand how systems work. You need to understand what happens when you send data from this system to this system. You need to be able to understand how that works, because cybersecurity is really understanding not only how things work, but how they could be used in a malicious manner in order to make it work for an adversary.
How things can be broken.
Exactly. I remember in the movie Training Day, when Denzel Washington's character Alonzo, he was talking to one of the younger police officers, and he said, to protect the sheep, you have to be a wolf, right? And that's so true. And that applies to cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Right?
You got to think like an adversary.
100%. Yeah. 100%. And so what's the path to that, though? Do I do help desk? Do I go into the military? And I know they're struggling with this as well. Do I go into the military, get enough years of experience, and then leave, which is what's happening today?
I tell people all the time, try public service first. If you want to break into cyber, roles like I'm sure the ones that you have open for the city, the federal government, certainly, the armed services is an option, but I tell folks all the time they really should consider public service, because you get not only the academic associated training, but you get the hands-on experience that subsequently will make you desirable to these commercial enterprises if and when you're ready to make that transition into the commercial space.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think, the statistics have been there for quite some time. There's more cybersecurity roles than there are people qualified for those roles. And so what that translates to is then you start taking people who aren't necessarily qualified for that role and putting them in a role that requires more skill. It requires more experience. And so it ends up kind of diluting the career field itself. I remember when I first came in, before cybersecurity was a field, you know, someone actually sat down and spent time with me. And you know, she said, hey, if you don't, I need you to understand these things. Once you understand these things, then I'll take you on the next step. But until you understand these things, I can't train you on this stuff here. So it was a step-by-step process to where it finally got to the point where she said, okay, now you know what you're talking about. You can come on my team.
Right.
That doesn't really exist in organizations where resources are heavily impacted, right? Yeah. She had time to do that. And in her defense, she made time for me, right? But again, there's no formal, widely adopted training process in order to properly train up people to be cybersecurity professionals, cybersecurity practitioners, and take them on through up to, you know, what we would call in the military a master practitioner.
Right. This is super, super important because I've had, like you, this conversation for the past decade, I think. And some light bulbs have gone off for me just in how you've couched the subject in terms of making it analogous to other professions, and the fact that there is a well-regulated career path for becoming a doctor, for instance, or an attorney. Cybersecurity is an academically founded profession. There should be a step-by-step process for someone to become a cybersecurity practitioner. There should be particular gates that assess your capabilities and then move you on to the next stage.
Yeah.
As I say these things out loud and as I listen to you sort of go through what is a totally reasonable approach to this, sounds to me that there would need to be some rather deep public-private partnership that would enable our industry to really gravitate towards some kind of organization around the profession.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's happening. It's interesting, though, that literally the way that you outlined it, I could see the federal government stepping in, creating a clear career path, and then enable institutions and organizations to be able to basically take people through those career paths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know some of your listeners are probably saying, no, there's a bunch of cybersecurity certifications. That's a good foundation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But that's like, so me as a pilot, I'm a private pilot, you know, at this point, and I get my ground training certification.
Yeah.
Or I get my student pilot license. To me, that's the equivalent of a certification. I kind of know what I'm doing to not crash the plane, but there's still all this other stuff that I've still got to learn. That only way I can learn it is through both hands-on instruction as well as kind of being up in the air and learning through trial and error.
Yeah. No, I'm a big proponent of certifications. It's the pathway that I took. It's what the FBI provided to me as someone who was selected to go into the cybersecurity lanes. They started giving you these certifications, and that was sort of a gating. But even still, I had lots of options in terms of which courses I wanted to take and where I wanted to provide emphasis. And I know organizations like SANS and others have created sort of tracks depending on your level of interest. If you want to be a digital forensics guy, like there's a pathway for you to be able to do that in the certain courses that you have to take. But still, there is no recognized in industry pathway. And like you, I get lots of questions from young folks about how to break into the field. And what they end up getting is a little bit of my experience and my opinion on things, but you're right. I can't tell them, hey, go look at the universally accepted framework for a cybersecurity education and go take those steps and break into the field. Yeah, and I think this is an interesting point. I think it's, and unless and until we get our hands wrapped around that, I think we'll struggle with this resource issue in terms of being able to identify people, and in all likelihood, we'll still improperly post for these roles and positions, not really knowing exactly what it is that we're looking for.
Yeah, kind of laughing when you're saying that, because I agree. You know, we say this is an entry-level role, and you need to have 5 years of experience with
the CISO.
Exactly.
Yeah. We say that stuff jokingly, but it still happens.
Oh, 100%.
It still happens. You know, there's still that sync up that's not happening between the HR folks and the practitioner leaders to explain, here's what we need for this role. The HR people go to some kind of taxonomy or methodology that exists in their data banks, and they just start throwing in certifications and role descriptions and all that kind of stuff.
Could not agree more.
Yeah, well, we don't take the time to, let me take a fresh look at that and tell you exactly what I need for this role.
Yeah.
Interesting. So we talked about resources. What other themes across the realm are folks dealing with?
I'm trying to be careful with how I say this, but
Yeah, and you don't have to mention any cities specifically.
It revolves around an emerging threat, but also emerging innovation is around artificial intelligence.
Yeah. I'm surprised we got this far into the conversation without mentioning AI, but go ahead.
I think when you're talking about cities in particular, and I'm not trying to ring kind of the dinner bell for our adversaries, but because I think everybody's struggling with this, but I think it's a little unique with cities because cities are trying to use artificial intelligence,
Trying to adopt it, trying to lean into it.
absolutely, to increase the efficiency. Why should it take me 10 months to get a building permit when with AI it only take 10 days, right? But on the flip side of that, you also need additional resources to stay current with defending an environment that is now really embracing artificial intelligence. And I think that's something that I hear from a lot of my counterparts.
It's the governance piece that that I think is missing.
Yeah.
And the fact, once again, that as an industry, we haven't really adopted a formal governance structure for AI adoption. Firms like mine and others, the big four, we're all kind of coming up with our own approach to this, and it's methodical and it adheres to some best practices and things. But I think what's missing is some kind of governing framework to basically walk organizations through that process and tell them what they need.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to work myself out of a business opportunity as I think about this out loud, but that's what's missing. People don't know where to go.
Well, and it's the use of AI, even in legacy systems, is propagating at a crazy rate right now. I mean, we were in one of the departments in the city a couple of weeks ago, and it was a solution that had been there for 15 years.
No.
They said, oh yeah, well, they just added this new component that encompasses AI. Okay.
Yeah.
That product had already gone through a security review. That product had been running a long time. That product had been patched. The firmware was up to date on it, but nobody kind of thought to say, hey, they're pushing out this new capability. And oh, by the way,
Probably to take it back through the process for security validation.
yeah. So I think that's the other thing. It's kind of putting cybersecurity teams in a position where they said, we reviewed all this stuff and we put the appropriate controls in place in order to properly mitigate risk on these different systems. I think it's forcing those teams to go back and say, well, which of these products have changed so much? Because now they've added some kind of artificial intelligence component that's tied back to an LLM or that now we need to go back and re-review, right? If you try to stop people from innovating, I mean, everybody in the cybersecurity community knows all you're doing is just creating the next generation of hackers, right? People that figure out how to work around your controls. So you've got I just don't want to call it a threat. You have an issue propagating that needs to propagate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got to get your arms around it while it's propagating.
It's more than a line item on anyone's risk register. It needs to be diligently investigated, and you need to figure out a way to mitigate the potential impact to the enterprise for sure.
100%.
Yeah. Let's take off your CISO San Jose hat for a second. What's your biggest hope for AI as it relates to cybersecurity? What do you think it's capable of doing for us as practitioners?
I think cybersecurity and AI are capable of automating defense. I think it's capable of, by its predictive nature, I mean, that's what artificial intelligence is. It's prediction, staving off attacks before they happen. The scary part of it is machines fighting machines. Right? Excuse me, and you completely remove the human element from the equation. That's the part that I'm uneasy about, right? Because I grew up in that generation of,
war games,
Terminator and war games,
yeah, of course,
and all that
me
stuff,
too.
right? Yeah. But I never really thought about, well, what would that mean if machines are fighting machines? I think there is so much room for AI to enhance cyber defense, both on the proactive side and the reactive side. And I think we haven't even scratched the surface of what's possible. I mean, people talked about SOAR 10 years ago when it comes to incident response, right? But
yeah, this is like the realization of SOAR, right?
Yeah.
It's orchestration without having even to define playbooks and things like that. It's all sort of baked into the algorithm.
yeah, people talked about self-healing networks,
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago. We have the technology to do that now, but what does that mean, right? Where does the human intervention, where should it be required? And where is kind of the human getting in the way, right? Of the technology being able to perform it at its full potential. That's the stuff that I don't know who's asking those questions right now, but those are the questions that need to be asked.
Whose role is it to ask those questions?
That's a great question.
Is it the creators of this capability, or is it government? Is it a combination of both?
I do think that there is a responsibility in those that are creating the technology that have to ask that question. But I think we start getting a little bit into politics when we start deciding, is it a regulatory agency? Is it, that's a great question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think what we're viewing or seeing is, one, the technology is moving so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I have trouble keeping up with it. I'm a heavy user myself of AI from a business standpoint. I think I could not do business without it at this point. But at the same time, I can't keep up with the advancements. There are so many entrepreneurs out here starting new companies based on AI, solving problems in new and different ways that, I don't know about you, but I have a little bit of the shiny object syndrome from time to time, because I see, oh, wow, they're building this over here, and I need to go dabble in that and see what it's capable of doing. And then, oh, this thing over here, which now solves this problem.
Yeah.
I think it will, I agree with you. I think it has the potential to elevate cybersecurity defense. I really believe that should be the goal of how it's infused in the cybersecurity spectrum. I think for the first time, we potentially have a way of combating, or at least being on par with, adversarial activity.
Yep.
But I think productization gets in the way
Amen.
of that.
Yep. I couldn't agree with you more.
What's that expression? The self-licking lollipop? Like the cybersecurity industry.
Yeah.
It's a behemoth.
Yeah.
All you have to do is attend RSA every year to see the size and scope and the different vendors, everybody building this. People identify a single problem, they build a tool to combat it, and they basically go to market.
Yeah.
And that means there are thousands upon thousands of vendors out there creating these tools. And I think collectively, it's kind of self-propagating. It's like, the industry is going to exist as long as there's a problem to be solved and an opportunity to solve it and monetize it. And you get these competing products out there, and it just makes the field, it makes it a very difficult proposition, I think, for folks in your position, because now you're the stakeholder that's got to figure out, okay, well, which tool is best for us?
Yeah.
Right? In our situation, how can we maximize the limited resources and dollars and things that we have available to us? I think it's a massive ongoing challenge.
Yeah. I mean, to your point earlier, though, I think what we're seeing right now is there's not a lot of differentiation out there. I think people are putting out a lot of this really similar products with slightly different naming conventions.
Yeah.
But I remember, CrowdStrike's not going to cut me a check, but I remember when CrowdStrike first reached prominence, right? It was doing things way different than McAfee, way different than Symantec, way different than Kaspersky and all those AV vendors, right? But who's the CrowdStrike out there right now in this age of AI innovation, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, the field is littered. There's new companies popping up every day. I have meetings literally multiple times a week with brand new companies, because I'm trying to figure out a way to complement these new technologies and services with our service lines, and that there's no end to it.
Yeah.
I have to block off time to meet new entrepreneurs, new leaders, to basically take a look at what they're doing.
And I know some of your listeners are going to be calling me, talking about, well, here's how I differentiate. Don't call me.
Yeah, we're not short on advice. I'm sure that you will get some outreach. So we talked a little bit about the challenges. Are there any blue skies? Are there any, I don't know, things that you and your cohorts are looking at and saying, you know what, we got a pretty good handle on this. We feel good about X, Y, or Z. Does that exist, or is it all worry?
Well, I mean, you're talking to somebody who's paid to be paranoid, right? I do think there are areas of governance that are maturing now. The ability to comply with regulatory requirements, the ability to produce what a lot of people don't want to do, but documentation that helps people comply with cybersecurity, that helps people comply with regulatory requirements. I think that is a area that I'm seeing a lot of advancement in. And frankly, like yourself, I'm taking advantage of AI resources to bolster those areas. Right. Here are my themes. Build this thing out for me. Let me see if let me make sure I agree with everything that's said, and I can put it out.
Right.
Whereas before it was like writing a term paper.
Writing a thesis.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm probably going to get myself in trouble, but like I look at our police officers in the city of San Jose. Everybody was kind of up in arms about the whole overtime thing. Well, you were in law enforcement just like I was on the federal level. It takes time to write down everything that transpired during a particular incident or event.
Right.
But if I have a camera that records everything and then it transcribes everything that it saw, I think that's fantastic. Right, especially you're not taking the human out of the equation because they have to proofread and make sure that you agree with everything that was generated, right? So I think just from a documentation and communication standpoint, I think things are getting better from a cybersecurity standpoint. I don't want to get into politics and the media and all that, but I think that's where I see kind of greenfield right now.
Right. I will tell you that as this new technology, and I'm referencing AI, continues to take hold, the very first thing I thought about was how it could have been so helpful in much of my law enforcement career, the auditing, the inspections, the drafting of information that, I got to be pretty decent at, but it was so time consuming. And it takes you away from the aspects of the job that people naturally assume you're doing the whole time that you're on a shift or whatever you want to call it. Like you're not policing the whole time you're on a shift, as you just noted.
Yeah.
You literally are spending a portion of that time writing reports about what you did while you were on that shift.
Yeah.
Just so that you can document things. And if there's a possibility that a recording can be auto-transcribed and create a viable, legally binding transcript of exactly what transpired, I think that's a good thing. And I think it'll free up time to do the thing that they're being paid to do. So.
Amen.
Hey, I want to shift gears a little bit, get in the personal side. I think I could talk to you for hours about challenges across the risk landscape, but I'm always interested in what influences people and kind of what made you who you are today. So I want you to think about a book, piece of film, an album, piece of art that has had an outsized influence on how you see the world. Is there anything that fits that description for you?
That's a great question. I think more than any form of media, it was really my father.
Okay.
My dad was what some people would call a throwback. He got up every morning. He went to work. He didn't cut corners. He came home, made sure his family was taken care of, and rinse and repeat. He didn't accept less of himself, and he expected the best from us as his children. He loved us very much, but I think love back then was a little bit of a different connotation than it is now. Love wasn't being your friend. Love was setting you up for success later on in life. So when something gets difficult, because he loved us, he made us push through.
Right.
When something was scary or intimidating to us, he made us stand up to it. I think those things combined with you need to be a respectful person. You need to treat everybody with respect until they show that they don't deserve that level of respect.
Right.
You need to treat people with kindness. Those things have really, I think, shaped the type of person that I am as a as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as a cybersecurity executive, as a leader, right? I try to be respectful of everybody that I interact with. And, it's kind of funny. I get comments from time to time of, you're such a respectful person. That was the norm.
Wow.
Where
That should be table stakes, right?
yeah, in how I grew up, but it's you kind of look at society today and kind of say, well, how did we move away from respect and kindness being a foundation, right? But it's also how I approach not just work, but everything in my life. And when something's difficult, I think that's when I get keyed into, okay, it's a challenge, and it's my opportunity to push through.
Yeah.
Right. Where, I've kind of seen, nowadays, wow, I guess I'm the old guy now in the room going back in my day. But you kind of see these kids and they're put in a situation and they shrink, they fold. Mm-hmm. I can't handle that,
There's an absence of resilience. That's the way I describe it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, it's the same thing with accountability. Mm-hmm. If something didn't go well that I was responsible for, I played a role in it not going the way I wanted it to go or it not going well. And I, kind of started to see a little bit of an absence of that in kind of, modern day. But again, these were things that were foundational, in how I grew up and kind of shaping me into who I am just as a man, And I know that I don't want to get into the whole toxic masculinity and all that, but I guess I'm a proud toxic masculine man because the way I was raised was, here's the definition of some things that, not what a man is, but here's things that a man typically does.
Yeah.
He takes care of those around him. He takes care of his kids. He teaches. He nurtures. He supports. All these things are, really fundamental aspects of who I am.
Well, sounds like you had a great dad and
I did, the best.
and family, and obviously made a huge impact on who you are. Last question for you. What's something that you're surprisingly good at or deeply interested in that has absolutely nothing to do with technology?
I'm a pretty humble guy, MK. I'll tell you what, I never thought when I was a kid that I would love riding or racing motorcycles so much.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was gonna check you on that.
Yeah. That's people that know me well. Mm-hmm. I say I'm gonna go see my therapist this weekend, and that's usually a track day weekend. And I tell people, in certain roles that you take in life, your mind naturally doesn't shut off.
Yeah.
Because you're always thinking about this person or this thing or something that needs to be helped or overcome. But when you're on the track, only thing you have time to think about is the next turn, right? Or
it pulls you into the moment.
Absolutely. And it allows you to
requires your full attention.
Yeah. It's a mini vacation, and I know some people think like, well, why is going 120 miles an hour around the track? How is that a vacation? But it really is a mental break. All you're thinking about is negotiating the next turn, the next obstacle, right? Can I increase my speed and still safely, get around the track? All those sorts of things. And it's they're both physically and mentally draining, but it's that good draining. It's that good tired, right? Before all the other stuff comes back, that you have to worry about, as a human being in the world. So.
Well, Austin, thanks for what you do for the city of San Jose. Being a San Jose resident, I get the benefit of knowing that you're at the helm from a cybersecurity standpoint. It's very much appreciated. And keep being a good human.
I appreciate it.
All right. Hey, thanks for being on the Risk Apogee.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Austin.
Thanks for being here on the Risk Apogee. Every episode, we dig into what it actually takes to lead through risk. And that's the same work we do every day at Apogee Global RMS. Cybersecurity, physical security, organizational resilience, talent strategy. One integrated approach built around your people, not just your platforms. Are you ready to move from reactive to resilient? Visit apogeeglobalrms.io and sign up for a risk-free consultation with our team of advisors.